Hello, my name is Michael Davies. I'm a Spanish lawyer. I've been in practice in Spain since 1996. I've handled many hundreds of conveyances in Spain all along the coast, even though mainly in Andalusia region. And today I'm going to go through, this is going to be a guideline of how to purchase a property safely in Spain. At the end of the day, this is general advice, and you should, every purchase is different, and you should get individualized advice from a lawyer on your particular purchase. But this is a guideline of what to expect that I hope you find useful. So let's start from the beginning. The beginning is the choice of the Spanish property that you're going to purchase. And I won't go into the detail of which region of Spain is nicer, because that's for you to look into with different estate agents and hunting around online. But from a legal point of view, I would like to point out that inheritance tax is very different in the different regions of Spain. So if you're a certain age or over, especially on high net families, I definitely recommend you get professional advice on the difference in inheritance tax in the different Spanish regions. The other thing that's slightly different from a legal point of view, depending on where you purchase, is transfer tax. Transfer tax in Andalusia is 7%, but then, for example, in the Valencia region and the Balearics, it would be 10%. So it will make a slight difference to the purchase expenses. As I said, there's a lot I could say about the different regions and why for some people one region may be the perfect one, while for others it's something that would do for a whole new video. I know Andalusia like the back of my hand. I've lived here all my life and I love Andalusia. I think it's a great place, but there are other nice things in the other regions as well, so I won't go into that. That's for another video. But from a legal point of view, especially remember the difference in inheritance tax. There is also a difference in transfer tax. And I forgot to mention before, there is also the issue of wealth tax. Some regions like Andalusia, it doesn't exist anymore, except for people that have more than €3 million. But in other regions, it still exists above 700,000 euro. Okay, so enough of that, because each one of those subjects would be for a separate video. But for most people that are buying a property, maybe 300,000, 400,000 euro, or as low as 150, as high as a million, million and a half. Most people, we just need to concentrate on the buying purchase procedure. So with that out of the way, let's go on to the next subject, which is the choosing of a Spanish lawyer to handle your purchase. Okay, a lot of this is just common sense stuff, but I just want to remind you, because when you get warm and you're just about to purchase, sometimes it's difficult to think about these things. But find yourself, once you've narrowed down the area where you're going to purchase, start looking for a lawyer. Now, I always think that choosing the lawyer simply because it's been the one recommended by the estate agent, that is not a good way to choose a lawyer. Most lawyers are independent. It doesn't matter who sent them, but you may come across a lawyer that's very dependent on that particular estate agent for a very large percentage of their work. I just think it's not a good idea. So ways to find a good lawyer? Well, you can go to the British Consulate website, and there's a list of English-speaking lawyers in the different regions of Spain. It's true that it has a disclaimer saying that they're not recommending the lawyers. It's just, but in general, they're lawyers that have been around for quite a long time. I think we're on the Armory and Malaga list. Another good way is ask other people. Once you've got to that region where you're going to buy, that area of Spain where you're going to buy, ask around, and there may be the name that keeps popping up as a good and recommended lawyer in the area. Well, that's a good indicator. Also, if you've already opened up a Spanish bank account, perhaps ask the bank manager. Sometimes they'll at least know who are the lawyers that he deals with more frequently. And in general, Google around, look at the reviews, but that shouldn't be the most important thing. Word of mouth, ask around, and to say, once you get someone that keeps popping up, that's a good thing. If you found someone that says, oh, well, this such a lawyer, he saved me from buying an illegal property, and since I bought another one, he's a treasure. That's the good lawyer, okay? So if you actually find someone that's actually been told not to buy something else, that's normally a very good indicator. So I'm not even saying that just because the estate agent recommends someone, it's a bad lawyer. I'm not saying that. So, there are estate agents that recommend us. I'm not saying therefore don't use Michael Davies because he's been recommended by certain agents. I'm just saying don't use that if it's the only criteria. That's a very bad signal, okay? And especially keep away. If an estate agent is very pushy on using a particular agent solicitor instead of sort of recommending a list of 5 or 6, that's a bad sign. So once you've found a lawyer, I'd say, go and meet him. Nowadays, meeting a lawyer is so easy compared to the old days, because now, even if you're in the UK, just organize a Zoom consultation, put a face to him, see what he's like, make sure that you feel it's someone that that's going to be helpful, that you can talk to. Obviously, he needs to speak English. That's without saying. But now you're spoiled for choice as far as English-speaking lawyers, because I remember 25 years ago when I started, there really weren't that many. Very good for us. But nowadays, in all the coastal areas, you'll find good English-speaking lawyers to choose from. I think it's also important if you can find someone that's also accustomed to doing English, wills for English people and handling probate for expats and things like that. It's all a plus, because that may be needed looking into the future. Otherwise, you can always do the conveyance with one lawyer and then do wills, things with somebody like us. But if you can put it all in one place, it's just easier. Okay, so with that out of the way, the other people you've got to get involved with will be a bank. So choose a bank. The lawyer will be able to recommend a bank, the same as the bank can recommend a lawyer. Get a bank account open. Opening a bank account in Spain is quite easy, even though with the money laundering compliance, etc., since Brexit, it's just a bit more difficult, but again, very easy. So basically, you'll have to provide the bank with your P60s or some kind of documents showing what you do for work. You'll need to also provide them with your national insurance number. Sometimes when they receive the money, the bulk of the money for the purchase, they can ask you where that particular money has come from. So if it's come from your bank account, they may ask you what the actual source is, a sale of a property, savings, etc. But that doesn't happen very often, but it does happen every now and again. Your lawyer can also ask you regarding where the money has come from for money laundering compliance reasons. And that's basically it. The other thing that the lawyer will need to set up with you is a power of attorney. Power of attorney for purchasing a property in Spain can be done in 2 ways. It can happen at the local Spanish notary. The solicitor will have a standard document that he'll have ready to go at a notary office that's normally just around the corner from where they are. That's how we normally set ourselves up. At least in our case, we use a notary just next to our office in Marbella, and the one in Majaca, again, a notary just next to our office here. So we can have a power of attorney prepared for purchasing a property within half an hour. You meet us, and half an hour later, you can sign the power of attorney. But you may have already gone back to the UK before you've made the decision to purchase. A power of attorney can be prepared in Spain, sent to you in the UK, for you to sign in the UK in front of a notary, have the Hague's apostille affixed, then it's sent back to us. Very easy. All the lawyers, we all do it the same way. No secrets here. So regarding the lawyer, there's one more thing I wanted to say is ask for a budget in writing for all items. That's notary fee, registrar fee, transfer tax, the services, that's switching over the electricity, the water, the rates established, community of owners, the NIE numbers that you will need. I also suggest that you ask him for a budget to make Spanish wills, because I think you should just get them signed as soon as possible after you buy the property in Spain. Ask for all these numbers, because you do need them all. It's also an indication if he doesn't know how to work them out, then it's an indication that he may not be the right lawyer to handle the conveyance for you. How much does it all cost? Well, it depends on the region. In Andalusia, on small value properties below 100,000, it will be a bit more than 10%. On larger properties of 200,000 euro and up, it is normally below 10% in total. The most important thing with this is, I always say, is just make sure you receive a budget in writing. The solicitor should be able to tell you exactly what his fee is going to be, exactly what the transfer tax is going to be, and he'll give you an approximation out by a maximum of 100 euro of what the notary fee and the registrar fee are going to be as well. If he doesn't know how to calculate that, again, that's not a good sign. Okay, so the other thing that he'll have to do for you is your NIE numbers. There's two ways of requesting NIE numbers. You can do them yourself at the consulate in your home country, or the lawyer will do it himself in Spain using the power of attorney. There is no doubt that is the best way to do it. Let the lawyer request your NIE numbers in Spain, because then he can put a time frame to it. While if you request it at the consulate in your home country, depending on where it is, the time scales can be all over the shop and they can mess up a conveyance. So do it with the Spanish lawyer, and you'll see that when your standard power of attorney for a lawyer to handle a purchase will include the request of Spanish NIE numbers, because that's how we always do it. Okay, so what is the NIE number? Well, it's just a Spanish tax number. That will be your tax number in Spain for all future payments. So when the solicitor pays your transfer tax, he's going to use that number. When he pays your annual non-resident income tax, he's going to use that number. You need it for everything, and you cannot buy a property now without having that number. Okay, so now the process. So the lawyer's all set up, hopefully before you find the property, but it may be sort of a bit back to front. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Sometimes the client finds the property and then hires the lawyer. But if you find the lawyer, have him all lined up first, I think it's always a better thing. Okay, so now once you've found the property, normally the estate agent, if it's through an estate agent, is going to ask you for a 3,000 euro reservation, just to like as a holding goodwill reservation, just to hold the property until you speak to your lawyer, the lawyer starts requesting paperwork, etc. So you now go to the lawyer. The lawyer will normally ask for a retainer. In our case, we do. Most lawyers do as well. And then he will start ordering all the paperwork from the agent or from the seller's lawyer. Copies of the title deeds, copies of the service bills, etc., etc. He'll do all the basic searches, and he will write out the deposit contract. The deposit contract is, we also call it the 10% deposit contract. And basically it's a contract by which we're going to pay over 10% minus the 3,000 euro paid. And that contract sets out all the conditions, and it must always have a no later than completion date. The completion in Spain is the day that you sign at the notary, and that's the day that you become the owner. So normally the lawyer, if he hasn't requested them already, between the deposit contract and the completion at the notary, he will organize all these things. So if he hasn't opened up a bank account, he'll get it open, he'll request your NIE numbers, there'll be no problem. And then he'll fine tune all the searches and do a last minute search today that you complete at the notary. And then he will just access your bank account, order a banker's draft, and use that to complete at the notary. It will then take him approximately 2 months to pay the transfer tax, pay the notary, and register with the property registrar your new ownership. He will also, or hopefully also, take care of setting up all the services in your name. That's electricity, the water, the rates, the rubbish, and the community of owners. Ask your lawyer in advance whether they offer this service. Lawyers, in general, we don't like doing it because it's very cumbersome, but it's a necessary evil, and it is a service that has to be offered. We definitely do. Most lawyers do, but just make sure when you request a budget that he's also budgeted for those changes of the services, because otherwise it can be very annoying. You come over to Spain and the property transactions happen correctly, but now there's no electricity because nobody bothered to change the electricity contracts into your name and set up the new direct debits. Okay, so basically a couple of months after the completion, the property is now registered in your name. Your lawyer receives the keys the day that you complete at the notary. if you're not here for the completion, on your first visit to Spain, I definitely recommend that you get your Spanish wills signed. And if they haven't been organized yet, speak to the lawyer, give him your instructions, let him write out the wills. The wills are normally done nowadays in 2 columns, English and Spanish. And so you're signing them in English at the same time as you're signing them in Spanish, and your solicitor will take care of all that. So now that you've purchased the property and all the services are in your name, make sure that you set up home insurance on the property. You can do that. All the banks sell home insurance, so you can do it through the bank or use any other agent of your choice. So now you're the proud owners of a property in Spain. And that leaves you just with your ongoing situation. So the first thing is at the end of all these things, you should end up with the following documentation in your file, okay? It's to keep things in good order. You should have at least, and it doesn't matter whether it's the originals or the copies, either will do, because in Spain, the deeds are all registered in the property register. So with copies, it's just as good as having the originals because they're all registered. So at least copy of the title deed, all the different paperwork in relation to the changes of names, electricity, the water, the rates, the rubbish, community bonus, and possibly a gas contract. You need to know what your bank account details are. And on your first visit to Spain, if the lawyer opened up your bank account for you, you need to visit the bank and set up internet banking for yourself. Very important. The lawyer can't do that for you. You need to do it. Maybe your lawyer can organize an appointment for you with the bank, so you can go in, say hello, they can put a face to you, and you can set up your internet banking. Also at that time, remember that if you haven't done it yet, you need to contract home insurance. Okay. You should also have in your file a copy of your Spanish wills. Keep all those documents together. Maybe you leave the originals with the lawyer, or maybe you keep them yourself. It doesn't matter. But if you keep the originals, your solicitor should keep a full set of copies. If he keeps the originals, you should have a full set of copies. You can just ask your lawyer to send you the full package of everything by email. You can print it out, put it in a file, and that is done and dusted. Do print them out and put them in a file, because otherwise, if you pass away, nobody can access your your emails. Just print it out. It's a good thing. Keep a file on your Spanish property that should include your Spanish wills. If you take out any kind of life insurance in Spain, also keep a copy of that life insurance policy with the rest of your paperwork. If the lawyer handling the conveyance doesn't tell you this, the lawyer that handles the will for you will tell you all these things, because it is how it should be. Okay, so ongoing obligations. So once you're here, you've got the decision, do I become a resident in Spain or do I remain a non-resident? If you remain a non-resident in Spain and you don't rent out your property, every year, 1 year in arrears, you have to file a form called 210, also called non-resident hypothetical income tax return. It's a very small tax, but you'll need someone to file a return for you. Theoretically, if you only own one property, you are allowed to file it for yourself, but I recommend using an accountant or the lawyer that handled the purchase for you. The fees are not very large, and it means that you've got someone that the tax office can contact if there is any problem with your affairs in Spain. If you rent out the property, it's a bit more complex and you'll have to get an accountant. So every 3 months, you'd have to declare the real income on the rentals and pay tax on it. If you're from the UK, now you have to pay 24% of the income with no deductible expenses, unfortunately. And then the following year, the non-resident hypothetical income tax return would be paid proportionally, but only on the days that you didn't rent it out and pay pay tax on the real income for those days that it was rented out. If you become a tax resident, things are a bit more complicated. You'll have to look into with an accountant every May, June, whether you have to make an income tax return. So in Spain, you always pay 1 year in arrears. Between May and June, you pay for the previous natural year, between the 1st of January and the 31st of December. And you pay between May and June is when you have to make the declaration. Your accountant will explain sometimes, even if there's no legal obligation to make the return because you're under the minimum income, etc., it may still be in your interest to prove residency to the tax office. This can be very important if you're going to sell, because it ties up with capital gains tax, where different exemptions for residents that don't exist for non-residents. So you want to make sure that if you're going to sell a property, that the tax office is well aware that you're a resident. So if you present an annual income tax return as a resident, even if there's no tax payable, it will give you the certainty that tax offices later on going to consider you a tax resident of Spain. If you are a resident and you have more than 50,000 euro outside Spain in one of three categories, stocks and shares, money, or real estate, then you have to declare every March what's called a 720 form, Declaration of Assets Abroad form. A couple of years ago, there was a lot of rumours about whether it was declared unconstitutional, illegal by the European Court of Justice. But since then, the tax still exists, even though they have reduced the penalties for non-compliance, and they have now created a statute of limitation over this declaration of this form after 4 years, the same as with other taxes in Spain. But you still have to present it. On successive years, you'd only have to present it if there's been a variation of those assets abroad of more than 20,000 euro. Also, in some autonomous regions of Spain, you have to deal with wealth tax. If your assets are worth more than 700,000 euro, there are some deductible amounts for your main home, etc. So in Andalusia, there's no wealth tax, but in other regions there are. Remember that there is now a new special tax if you have assets that are worth more than 3 million euro, and that you would pay in Andalusia as well. And the regions where there is wealth tax, you would deduct what you've paid from wealth tax from that tax. Obviously, in these sort of amounts, so you'd definitely be asking for advice, and you should. So you can call us or anybody else regarding these issues. So there's a lot more that we could say now. We could talk about what the selling expenses are, a lot of other things, but that is the basics. I hope you found the video useful. If at least it served one person out there and given them a good guideline of how it all works, then it's been worth it for us. If you found that the video useful, you want to help us out, help other people find us, please hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to receive other videos with similar content. Again, thank you for watching.